you did today? What you're trying to get in these kind of peculiar circumstances, and what your goal is going to be for these next couple days of practice?
Yeah, the biggest goal is to find the right balance of working our guys without overworking our guys. And I was happy with what we were able to do today. A lot of teaching, obviously a lot of review for the guys that returned, but just getting the new guys up to speed with some of our terminology and execution pieces. Most of practice was non-contact with a little contact portion towards the end. We're trying to do a little bit more of live work each of the next 3 days, or 3 days total, building into what we have scheduled as an off day on Wednesday. So I was happy with how today's practice went.
Do you get any sense of the difference between a practice like today's and one from last training camp when everything was a bit more traditional? Is it too early to say?
No, it's dramatically different. Not having a month's worth of pickup games and knowledge that our guys have been playing and are in good shape, makes you very cautious with how much that we're going to try to do, early on in this camp. And we don't have our Exhibit 10 guys. We don't have some of the coaching associates, interns that we typically have to throw into drills. So, we're very much more shorthanded than we would have been this time last year. And, but we just got to make the best of it. This is what everybody league-wide is encountering. And, we're adapting, and we're going to make the best of it.
Dave?
Hey, Frank, did you have all your players practice today?
Well, Quinn Cook just signed, so he has to go through the protocols of, I think, 6 or 7 days of testing still from the time he signed. So he'll be out for the first few days of this week. I think he's going to be cleared on Thursday for Thursday's practice. But we did not have him today, and we did not have a full slate of the rest of the guys either. But I prefer not to get into how many guys were not here or which guys were not here.
Dan Wookie?
Hey Frank, how long are you guys gonna have to walk that tightrope between, the how hard we're gonna work guys and not overworking guys? Is this gonna be kind of a months long process just based on sort of the circumstances?
I honestly think it's going to be all year long. And look, every year, that's part of the coach's job is to measure this with whatever environment you're building up to. But I think the early stages is where you're going to feel it the most and be concerned about it the most. First week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, when you get into playing real games, I think that first week of real regular season games, the intensity ramps up naturally, so there's going to be a concern with how much you're doing then. But it will be something that we measure all year.
Malgoon?
Hey Frank, at the end of the week with this game against the Clippers, obviously it's a preseason game, but what are your goals? I mean, with your limitations that you have with the bodies on the court and the conditioning level, I guess with some guys not being able to practice, what do you hope to do by Friday and show up for it?
Well, we're beginning. I mean, this is the season now. We have to put our system in. We got to build our offensive system each day, build our coverages out, make sure everybody's on the same page with that. And that first game will be the first opportunity to try what we've been working on, against an opponent just like any other year. I do think that there will be a big mindset to just preserve minutes with our regular season big minute guys as much as possible, and just try to take the first step for our team while staying healthy.
Delorme?
Hey Frank, good to see you. A couple of questions here that go hand in hand. Are you able to contextualize, without getting too specific, how how much of your team you had. I mean, you said you didn't have a full roster. That could theoretically be you only had 2 players versus you had 13. Could you possibly contextualize how much of your team generally you had? And then 2, are you at all able to prepare in any way for sort of the unpredictability of this time? Like, do you have to approach this differently, or do you build something into the way you're approaching training camp because you don't know if you're going to have everybody at all times? And maybe does your experience starting off in the bubble help you?
I do think starting off in the bubble helped us for trying to manage this phase right now. It's more like that second restart training camp than the September training camp that we had last year. We will manage it that type of way. And in terms of contextualizing how many players we had, we did have most of our roster available for practice today.
Brett Turner. Hello, Frank. How are you?
Good.
Good. How much time, or will you spend any time each day reminding guys about the COVID-19 protocols? Are you paying attention to other teams like Portland have to shut down their facility, I think, for a day or 2 because they had some tests?
For sure, we are paying attention to other teams and really other leagues as well. We're sort of new to the game. We, the NBA, are new to the game in terms of playing professional sports outside of a bubble. So we've been able to observe and learn lessons from baseball and the NFL, college football, college basketball, about how things look. And it's still going to be very new to us, but we are measuring that with other sports and with other teams in our league. And we have already talked about making sure that our team follows the protocols for a variety of reasons. We do not want our guys to get sick, to get positive tests, staff or players. We want to try to be as safe as possible. We do not want to lose personnel for not following the protocols, and we certainly don't want to be penalized for anybody on our program not following the protocols. So we're putting a heavy emphasis on playing by the rules here, and just for a variety of reasons.
All right, we've got time for 2 more. Mark Medina, please.
Hey Frank, good to see it. The fact that you guys have been accustomed in the bubble playing without fans, to what extent do you think that'll make this process easier this season? And I guess what adjustments still will go into tail knowing the scope of that is a lot bigger because you're playing in bigger arenas.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I don't think we make any adjustments really, other than the experience we had in the bubble. We know what it's like playing without fans. We know that we have to generate our own energy from the bench, and that's how it was in the bubble. And I think it will be different, even though it's the same fanless environment. I think it will be different in these larger arenas. It'll probably feel more unusual. But we'll have to see when that day comes.
Last one for you, Alan Sliwa, please.
Hey, Coach. How much different is it during a regular season where, I guess you could say training camp leaks into, obviously, preseason, leaks into the regular season? Is it that significant of a difference? Like, do you expect this year where maybe the first 10, 15, 20 games significantly different from just kind of getting your guys ready than previous seasons?
Well, I do think that the build-up, so to speak, will carry over into the regular season. I think typically you have 6 or 8 preseason games, where you're building up, and then once you hit regular season, everybody's everybody's ready to go regular season minutes, etc. And I think the nature of not really having a normal off season building up to this, guys are not playing pickup games for 3-4 weeks prior to camp, and having a lot of a shortened roster, etc. I do think that coaches league-wide, myself included, will sort of manage the first month of the season as still being part of.
I know it couldn't be any earlier in the season, Montrez, so just wondering your first impressions of getting out there, getting a little sweat on with some of your teammates,
I think it was a great first day, man. We got a lot of good work in, and it's definitely going to take some building and some time to do because, this is not a normal training camp. This is not a normal season. So it's definitely going to take some adjusting and, things that we're going to have to learn and kind of do in a quicker instance and, kind of on the fly to an extent. But, for the most part, I think it was a great first day, man. It was just, I think guys was just, felt good to get in the gym with one another and just get some work in, to somewhat normal lifestyle.
Bill Laura.
Hey, Montrez, Bill Orm with The Athletic. For those of us who've watched you the last few years with the Clippers, I'm just going to say that it looks really weird to see you in a Lakers jersey, but I'm sure we'll get used to it. I'm wondering how that feels for you on this first day, and then as somebody who's played against LeBron a lot, what was the first practice with him like?
It's great to be, here, and it's a building process as far as our entire group. I think we're going to take each day as a building block and just going to keep looking to, work our plays, work our sets, get our defensive coverages right, and just make sure all the little things are correct. As far as like playing with Bron, it's not hard to play with, one of the greatest players that is to play this game that we have right now, man. He makes the game extremely easily for a lot of us on the floor, man, and it's not hard to just pick up off his leadership and just follow.
And Wookie.
Hey, Trez, do you see that leadership, like, even just in a first day? Does that show up as you guys are kind of going through almost like an orientation phase of a practice? Is LeBron's leadership that apparent?
I definitely think his leadership is a tremendous skill to have, and I definitely think he's built it up to an unbelievable amount of just, work and, a student of the game and everything that he's put forth into this game. And, yes, it definitely shows because here's a guy that in his, I was this 18th, 19th season being in the NBA, man, and he's still just getting better. He's just getting better every day, and it just shows, from his talking to guys, putting guys in the right places, knowing what coach wants us and where he wants us. So I think we have a strong, great leader in LeBron. Not only him, AD, Marc, guy who's been around the league as well, man. So I think we just got great leadership in the locker room overall.
Dave McMenamin.
Trez, good to see you. You guys have a preseason game in like 5 days. Compared to other preseasons, how can you compare your readiness as a group with that so close right around the corner?
Honestly, I don't know if I could really, kind of give a grade as to, overall everyone, me, myself. I definitely have been working out, working with my trainer, doing all the little things I can through this COVID period, as far as like getting runs and stuff like that. But, it's a team game, and like I said, it's going to take some gelling. It's going to take some time, man. You got to think guys was just ending the season, fairly 5 months ago, man, and then we're right back into it, man. So it's going to take everybody, not only us, just to, get back into the flow of things, get back into the swing of things, as far as this whole training camp goes. But, it's definitely, crazy to see, this quick turnaround. And like you said, we have a preseason game on Friday. But, it doesn't make any excuses for us. We don't look for it as an excuse. Like I said, you're just going to have to – this season, I think, for everybody is going to be a big adjustment and having to learn to deal with a lot of different adversity because it's going to be a lot that pops off this year throughout this whole season as far as COVID, having players, not having players, traveling, now it's playing in, for the mainly most part, entirely empty arena. So it's going to have to be one of those things that you're going to have to adjust and just, make it work, really.
All right, we'll take a couple more. Kyle Goon, please.
Hey, Trez. Kyle Goon from the OC Register.
How you doing?
When it comes to the big guys on this roster, you, AD, Marc, getting in the building together, did today's practice give you a better sense of how you guys kind of might mix and match and maybe how some of you guys can share the floor at the same time?
Honestly, I don't think you could really see those things right off the back from a first day's perspective because you're asking, a guy in AD and Brown who's played with each other for a full year and now somebody who like me and Mark has came up from another team, and we're trying to figure out and trying to know the ins and outs of how they run their sets here on the offensive end, and the same thing on the defensive end. So I really don't think that's something that we're really locked in on as far as like who's going to be out there together or what lineup is going to be what. Right now we're just looking to get better. Everybody to kind of understand the terminology, both offensively and defensively, and we're looking to just grow from that, man. We have an extremely talented roster, and it's going to be a lot of different matchups thrown out there on any given night. But like I said, when you're playing with a guy like Bron, AD, Mark, guys of that caliber who's been around this game a numerous amount of years and have built a substantial amount of respect and just the overall attention that they bring to the game when they step on the floor, man. It's not going to be hard to kind of play with guys like that. From my perspective, I can't speak as far as every other player.
Right. Last two questions, Mark.
Hey, Trez, Mark Medina here, USA Today. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
The fact that you've already become used to playing without fans in the bubble, I was wondering in what ways might make that easier for this upcoming season, and what ways do you think there'll still be an adjustment because you guys are playing in NBA arenas?
What was the question? One more time. I didn't hear that part. I heard about the NBA arena and the bubbles being empty. But what was the question?
The whole idea that you've already become used to playing without fans on your own. So, like, in what ways might that make it easier to handle that this season?
I don't really think. I don't really think it's going to be easier, honestly, because now we're going to actually be back out into somewhat the real world, our day-to-day lives, as opposed to, we was in a set one area. All our travel was, handled by the staff and the people of the Disney, facilities. But, it's going to be a lot different. And to an instance, a lot tougher, man, because now guys are back in their regular life. They're around family, loved ones, and now you also have to, kind of keep them in that shelter area just so, everybody can stay safe, and also you can stay safe to go in and, perform your job. So it's definitely going to be a lot tougher and I think a lot more difficult to, more so just making sure that we're doing the right things to not put ourselves in jeopardy to, have any setbacks as far as like quarantine or a positive test with COVID. So I definitely think it'd be tougher as far as being out the bubble or as far as it was in the bubble.
Last one for you, Melissa Rowland.
Hey Trez, I know it's very early, but I'm wondering if already does the chemistry feel different on this team than it did with the Clippers?
Honestly, I can't go to say. There's two different teams that you're asking me about. This is where I am, and this chemistry that we're trying to build is going to take a while to build because, in the instance, we haven't all been on the floor at the same time together. We're still learning each other out. We're still getting a feel for how each one of us plays and the little things that we want done. It's a couple guys who've been here who had the honor of playing together and actually winning the championship last year, but to a certain extent, we almost have a whole new five on the team, more really, and it's still going to just take some time in general, man. I think when any given chemistry or reset to a roster.
Just wondering, Frank was talking about how unique this first day is, and what are you trying to take out of it versus just what it's been like from your expectation about just getting in the gym, starting to see what it's like with some of these guys? How unique is this all?
Is this Mike? Sorry.
Yes, sir. This is Mike.
Big win for our Vikings. Big win for our Vikings. Dan Bailey.
It took a little bit. I mean, it
took a little bit. You're right. But back to serious business. It's definitely unique, and I guess that's just kind of the mentality that everybody, myself included, is embracing. Coming to this organization, a championship organization, with a goal to defend and repeat. You got to have some sense of competitiveness and drive and hunger, as repeat champions. And then, for myself, who's a guy who's trying to get his first one in the midst of a team that's trying to do it again. My hunger aligns with the team's hunger and the organization's hunger. But as far as trying to integrate to a new system, I've played basketball for a long time. This is season 12. All glory to God and family. But it's basketball at the end of the day. Obviously, some different nuances, some different terminologies, but nothing that can't get picked up in a matter of a few days going into camp.
I'd like to follow up on the Vikings, but I'll spare everybody else here. Wesley, just guys you played against for a long time, LeBron, Marc Gasol. Is there a way that you can understand them by all of the scouting reports that you've had to prep that then evolves as you, even from that day one when you're actually on the court together?
Absolutely. You can kind of see some of the things that you have to defend against and to know now, be able to put yourself in those situations where you're on the receiving end or you're the beneficiary or you're a guy that helps can open up spacing so that the ball can breathe so that you can play. One of the big emphasis was movement. This was probably the most movement I've done as far as spacing and cutting and slashing and just getting back into the swing of things, and almost similar to the flow in which style of play that I played in Portland, style of play that I played in Dallas. And, for me, it's exciting.
Dan Warkey.
Hey, Wes, Dan Warkey with the Los Angeles Times. Kind of two questions. How did your experiences going to Milwaukee last year, a team that was obviously built for a title run? You might talk about integrating in your experience, but how specifically fitting in with a championship level team? How did those experiences last year think will play out this year? And then, sort of secondly, you see around the league, two guys in Oklahoma City tested positive for coronavirus. Portland had to shut their facility down today. How big of a cloud is that? Kind of as you guys go day to day here training camp?
Well, everything that I've seen here has been top notch as far as making sure that protocols are followed. And, a lot of it is just going to come down to the accountability of oneself, being a part of this organization, being part of this championship organization and wanting to repeat. And like I said, myself, wanting to be in that game and be the last team standing. You're going to have to hold yourself accountable. This is going to be in some ways tougher than the bubble, because at least in the bubble we knew there was no other distractions. As far as it was difficult to be isolated from what felt like the world, but now to know that not only are we looking out for everybody's personal, your family, yourself, but this is an extension. The Lakers organization is an extension of your family. And so, if we want to be the last team standing, we also got to be the healthiest team standing. So we've got to be accountable and be smart individually and collectively. And then as far as the transition from the Milwaukee to here, obviously, the difference is this group of guys has won the championship as opposed to Milwaukee, where we were trying to get our first. And the hunger is same, but it's also different at the same time. You have that pedigree about you, the wherewithal, having been there, having done it, and just trying to learn from it, but at the same time knowing that basketball is basketball, and just trying to be in the right spots at the right time to make plays and be in playing basketball again.
Dave?
Hey, Wes. When you guys, David Bennett with ESPN, when you guys look at this preseason slate and these 4 games you have, how much are you going to kind of judge your team or measure your team versus you would in a normal year, considering you have so little time leading up to these games?
I don't know. I only really know one way to judge, and that's off of wins, performance, how hard we go, the little things. Your shot may not be there. You might be a little bit rusty on the offensive end, obviously due to lack of playing, lack of pickup. This is very unconventional for everybody involved. Usually leading up to this point, when we get to this point in training camp, there's been a lot of 5-on-5s. There's been a lot of runs up and down. We got to be smart going into this. You don't want an NFL situation where no preseason and go straight to games, and you see a lot of guys going out within the first 2-3 weeks of the season. So that's going to be the build up and the slow progression. Obviously, this team has had this team in Miami have had the fewest amount of days off in between starting back the season. Myself, we were out in the second round, so had a little bit more time to get ready, but that's still it's still been an unconventional off season. So a lot of it comes down to personal accountability. Getting what you need, making sure you get rest, making sure you're doing stretching on your own, doing all the little things to make sure that you can be ready when it's go time, and that's next week or later on this week. I don't even know.
Kyle Goon.
Hey Wes, full day for you with the practice and watching Kirk Cousins in one day. That's a lot of work.
I didn't get to watch Kirk, so I didn't get to watch that. So there was one stress that was gone.
It's kind of three questions here. One, we talked with a bunch of guys who are returning who have said, their normal off seasons, obviously everything being so compressed, they haven't gotten a lot of training in. As somebody who's had a little more time than the returners, how much of your regular off season were you able to squeeze in? And just as a follow up, on a first day of training camp, Frank said that most of the guys were there, but not all. How much are those holes kind of felt when you're just starting out with a new team?
Well, for me, everything is new, so I didn't really have a gauge on who was, who wasn't. I mean, I know we got some guys that are coming back. My man Quinn Cook just got re-signed back, so I'm excited about that and happy for him. And I think Alfonso wasn't here yet. I think just because, going through protocols and making sure everybody's safe and eligible and ready to go. And so it's all new for me. And as far as my off season, I mean, I was doing a lot of recovering. I had to, I had a little fracture in my finger in game 1 of the second round against Miami. So I've had to wait longer than I would have liked to. Once we've got eliminated, to let that heal up so I could even resume back training and doing all that kind of stuff. And it's 100% now. I feel great. So I didn't really get that same normal off season as well, and still just trying to make do. Doing a lot of yoga. Just again, being in this for 12 years now, you kind of know what you need, and just making sure you're doing that on a daily basis.
Bill Orm.
Hey Wesley, Bill Orm, yeah, brother. You've mentioned personal accountability a couple times here, as it relates both to COVID stuff and also just being physically right. But specifically with COVID, I'm wondering, how are players, specifically with your team, holding each other accountable? Where's the leadership coming from in terms of like the right behavior and making sure you're doing yourself? Everybody's putting themselves in a position where nobody's going to put the team at risk and shut the facility down.
Right. Well, I mean, everything starts within, but I mean, you think of the leader of this team. I mean, it's LeBron, and so that'll be something that will be discussed further on as we go into camp. I'm assuming, just as far as once we know more of everything, more of NBA protocols, more of just what there is to know about everything that we're getting ready to go through. This is all still new. This is all still happening on the fly. I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of things that get thrown at us throughout the season that are going to throw things off. And so again, you just got to be adaptable. You got to be you got to have that right frame of mind, right focus, knowing that above anything else, health is going to be the number one thing for us. And whether that's your body, and that's with this with COVID. So we got to be smart, and knowing that in order to be the last team standing, we got to be eligible to play.
All right, last two questions. Mark Medina.
Hey Wes, Mark Medina here, USA.
How you doing?
A two-parter here. You already know what it's like to play without fans when you're in the bubble. So I was wondering, in what ways will that experience again be easier to adapt to, and what other adjustments do you think will come up because you guys are now playing in NBA arenas?
I don't really know. I mean, I guess right now everybody's just got to go in to expect the unexpected. And I've been saying personal accountability for a long time. I think that's just really what's going to have to come down to, and to be ready for whatever. Make sure you do the work. Make sure you do your diligence. Coaches are going to provide us with scouting reports, game plans. It's going to be up to us to make sure our bodies are right and taken care of, so that we can go out and execute it. And just following guidelines, following protocols, and understanding the greater good. It's not hard to sacrifice when there's something bigger than you. And for this organization, it's repeating. For myself, it's getting my first one, and being the last team standing, and doing it together, and being, tied in together. And that's what I took away from this first day. Even before this first day really started, that was the feeling, and that was the draw of this organization. It's bigger than everybody else.
Last one for you, Alan Sliwa.
Hey, Wes, 710 ESPN. Just curious, do you have a plan of how you're going to pace yourself as you go from training camp, preseason, to regular season, or is that something that is difficult to plan? You just kind of listen to your body. Just get your thoughts on that.
Truthfully, I haven't even thought about that. I have not thought about that at all. So appreciate you giving me something else to think about during a time where we have no idea what anything is going to be, which way is up sometimes. I trust this staff, this organization, and I think it's going to be a daily thing. It's going to be something that you're going to have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think that personally myself, obviously I was not a part of this team in the bubble, but I was proud of myself for being able to get comfortable in an uncomfortable environment. And obviously the Los Angeles Lakers showed that they were elite at being uncomfortable in an uncomfortable, or